Welcome to my channel. Today I will read from the You Won't Believe What Happened series. Our next Reddit story is from an anonymous user. My new apartment came with rules. I broke one. It was my first apartment alone. Old building, 4 stories, chipped paint, buzzing hallway lights, but it had charm. The landlord was polite but firm. When he handed me the keys he said, "You'll love it here. Just stick to the rules." I laughed. Like what? He hesitated, then slid me a printed list. I read it over. Curfew at 11. Don't use the back stairs after dark. And the last one. If you see a man in the stairwell between 2 a.m., do not speak to him. Do not answer if he speaks to you. I thought it was some weird joke. Maybe a way to keep tenants from sneaking guests in late. My first week was fine. Quiet neighbors, warm lights, old pipes. Yes, but no real issues. Then one night I stayed up late editing a project. I finished around a.m. and went to bed. But 20 minutes later, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, slow, but not threatening. I peeked out through the peephole. Nothing. Then I heard it again, this time on the stairs, just below my floor. I remembered the rule. I locked the door and ignored it. A few nights later, it happened again. 2:33 a.m. footsteps. Then a voice. Soft, calm. Male. "Excuse me, do you live here?" I froze. Didn't respond. Another knock, gentle. "Sorry to bother you. I'm locked out." I approached a peephole and this time I saw him. Average-looking guy. Gray hoodie. He wasn't aggressive. Not scary. He just looked tired. He knocked once more, waited, then he looked directly at the peephole and smiled. Gotcha. I backed away. I couldn't see him from my window. The next morning I asked a neighbor about it. The woman went pale. "You saw him? Who is he?" I asked. The neighbor just said, "Don't answer him again." No one said more. That week, strange things started happening. The hallway light would flicker at exactly m. I'd find my door unlocked even after double-checking it. My phone alarm went off one night set to 2:34 a.m. I hadn't touched it. That night the voice came again. "You're awake, aren't you?" No knocking. Just a voice from behind my door. "I saw you blink." I called the landlord. No answer. I emailed. No reply. I started recording each night. Nothing ever showed up. Until one night at exactly 2:17 a.m., the audio picked up something new. A whisper inside my apartment. "You broke the rule." I packed my things. I was planning to leave the next morning. But that night my fire alarm went off. I ran out into the hallway barefoot, panicked. No smoke. No flames. Just cold air. Then I saw him on the stairs smiling. He didn't speak. I turned to run, but all the doors were gone. Only the stairwell remained. He raised his hand, pointed behind me. I turned. My apartment door was wide open. Inside I could see myself sitting on the couch blinking. I left the building. I don't sleep near stairwells or answer knocks after m anymore. But sometimes when I dream, I see the man again, and I'm always walking toward him. Our next Reddit story is from Dr. Doom. This happened to me when I was a medical student working a summer job in a small-town hospital emergency room. Overnight shifts, high volume of intoxicated patients and other usual stuff. On the first night of my shift, a senior resident came up to me and said, "Don't go into the supply closet. It's off limits for a reason." I laughed it off and didn't think much of it. However, throughout the night, my colleagues kept giving me dirty looks every time I passed by the supply closet. So I decided to ask about it. Well, they told me that the supply closet was haunted by the ghost of a former employee who used to store moonshine in the closet. The ghost didn't like it and would often scare people who went in there. The most common occurrence was people hearing their name being called out and then feeling a cold spot on the back of their neck. As the most junior person in the room, I should have listened when they told me to stay out of there, right? Well, my curiosity got the better of me and I decided to check it out. Around m, I was taking a break between charting and suturing wounds, so I figured, what the hell? And I walked into the closet. Everything was normal until I reached for the light switch. And that's when I heard it. Get out. I must have stood there for a good 30 seconds listening for anything else. No sound. I turned the light on and everything seemed normal. I felt nothing out of the ordinary. I left without saying anything. To the others, I did tell them about the experience though. They all told me to forget about it and stop letting my imagination run wild. Of course, I agreed, but I still didn't go in there. Fast forward to around AM, and we had a full room of patients waiting for beds to become available so they could be admitted. We had absolutely nowhere to put them. Suddenly, my resident came up to me, grabbed me by the collar, and practically dragged me to the supply closet. "Where is it?" he yelled at me. "What do you mean, where is what?" "The moonshine. Where is it?" In the closet." "Good." He disappeared around the corner and I was left confused. Why did he say it like that? Did he believe in the whole ghost thing? I shrugged it off and tried to focus on my patients. An hour later, my resident came back, somewhat sheepishly. "I owe you an apology," he said. "What happened to the patient who was waiting for admission?" "He drank half a bottle of whiskey and now he's stable." "Oh, I see." Then he explained. Basically, when he went into the supply closet, he found a bottle of expensive whiskey and decided to take it. And apparently it was so good that he bought the whole stash. Now, how does one buy moonshine? I have no idea. How does one get so much? I have no clue. What I do know is that the entire department showed up for work the following day with bottles of liquor in hand, and we had the best day of drinking I've ever seen. That resident became my good friend. And as far as I know, the ghost hasn't thrown a bottle of whiskey at anyone since. Our next Reddit story is from Shrukin. When I was a kid, maybe 8 years old, I used to share a bedroom with my sister. We each had our own single beds on either side of the room, but we also had this large queen-size bed in the middle of the room. The queen-size bed was never used and it kind of just took up space in the middle of our room. One evening we were watching TV in bed. It was probably around 9 p.m. and our parents were in the other room playing cards. All of a sudden, I hear my sister shout my name very loudly, like she's really scared. And I respond, "What's wrong?" She replies, "Did you move the bed?" I responded, "No." "Why would I move the bed?" "Well, because it's moved. The bed's moved." "It's not moved. You're making stuff up, but it's moved." I didn't think much of it. I was thinking my sister was having a nightmare or something. But then she started crying. So I got out of bed and went over to the queen-size bed and started shaking it to make sure it wasn't moved. Then I felt it. The bed frame was indeed slightly moved from its original position. But that's impossible. There are no moving blankets underneath it. It's not like I could have shoved it because it's heavy and the room is small. I remember calling out to our parents, but they didn't respond. I don't know if they couldn't hear me or they just didn't want to come into our room. I feel like if something scary was going on, they wouldn't have ignored me. But it's been 25 years and I still don't know. At that point, I climbed into bed with my sister and hugged her until she fell asleep. Then I laid there thinking about the bed. I was trying to figure out if it was actually moved or if I was just making things up along with my sister. In my mind, I remember the bed being moved. It wasn't moved by much, but it was definitely moved. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this content, check out the playlist where we read eerie stories. Also hit that subscribe button because new videos come out every week. Nightfade.